One question that I get asked a lot is, will a normal moisturiser work? The answer is sometimes. If you have acne and you're using moisturisers that kind of strip the top of your skin and stuff like that, absolutely you can't use that around the eye area. Similarly, if you're using antioxidants that have, you know, any kind of like chemical exfoliants or kind of treatments in them like that, most of the time I will say don't use it around the delicate eye area, but you can't use anything like that around it. And also some of the say sunblocks in normal moisturisers might be a little bit too strong and won't suit the eye area, because they can be irritating to the eye area. So it's not a one size fits all with those things. Also, some of the moisturisers you use on your face might not be hydrating enough for the eye. You might be using a mattifying cream, and then that's not going to be great for under the eye area because you don't want to mattify there, you want to hydrate it more if anything. And then obviously another thing to consider when it comes to buying eye creams is some of them can be dramatically overpriced. This is just something you can decide on yourself. If you can afford the more expensive ones, go for it if you're happy with it. There are some really good inexpensive ones. I'd always say look towards Vichy and La Roche-Posay. They're like two of my favourite skincare brands in general, but they do some brilliant under eye creams. Olay are also really good for eye creams. I have some of their bits, and I love Clinique for eye cream. Now they all vary, but there are some kind of decent ones. If you're especially younger and you're not looking for any of your fancy schmancy ingredients, say stuff like Simple and even just the Boots own brand have some decent ones. But to get maybe some of the more, like I said, fancy ingredients like your retinol and your peptides, sometimes you do kind of have to pay a little bit more for them. But generally it's when you're kind of older and hopefully you could afford it a little bit easier. So don't buy into something just because of the price either. Try and do a little bit of homework before you do buy it, because I have tried really expensive ones before that I thought were absolutely crap, and then I've tried much more affordable ones that I thought were amazing. So don't buy into something just because of the price point, because I think that can be misleading sometimes. So I have some final tips now before I kind of go into some of my favourites. The first one would be to leave your eye cream in the fridge. This is really good because not only can it sometimes extend the shelf life of your actual formula, it will obviously cool it down, and anything that's cooling is soothing on the eye area, and this can also help restrict those blood vessels that sometimes cause the darkness underneath the eye area. So this can kind of offer a temporary solution to that and maybe brighten it up a little bit. Too much can be counterproductive, so never apply too much product underneath the eye. First of all, it can actually accumulate underneath the skin and cause puffiness, and you don't want product sitting underneath the skin. That's kind of gross anyhow, but you don't need too much and you're just going to waste product, especially if you have spent a little bit more on it. So try and just use a little bit, 1 or 2 little drops around the outer area, and then pat it in. I do tend to use my ring finger, or I love to use, you've probably seen me a million times before doing this, a fluffy blending brush, synthetic if possible, so you don't absorb all the product, but I love to just buff it in like that, like I would with concealer. And then finally, kind of for those kind of tips is, even if you're wearing sunblock on your eye cream when you're outside during the day, still wear your sunglasses. It's just really important. I'm just talking about when you're kind of in the sun. It's just so important to try and keep the sun off that area, especially if you're out for any extended lengths of time, because it will cause damage over time if it's constantly getting sun damaged. So that's one thing. Always wear your sunglasses. I always wear my sunglasses if I can think of it, or if I have them, especially if I'm driving and it's sunny, I'll always wear my sunglasses. So I think that's really important. And then if you're wondering about where to apply it, obviously anywhere where crinkles do show up naturally. So around the crow's feet, you can do little circular motions if you're very light-handed, so you can stimulate the kind of area a little bit. Usually you'll just pat those so you don't pull on the skin. You can apply it obviously on the inner corner if you're dry, or if that's where you're dark and you're using something that has brightening agents in it. So again, it's more to do with your own specific concerns. Generally around this area, if you're oily on your upper lids, there's no need to apply any eye cream there. Personally, I tend to get quite dry there, so I will always add eye cream. Just again, be careful not to add anything maybe with retinol up here though, because it can absorb through the eyelid into your eye and you don't want that. So try and keep stuff like your retinol and your SPFs away from here. Just keep them around this area. It's just kind of, it's common sense if you think about it, but it is something to kind of think about if you weren't aware of it before.